thank you all for joining in our inaugural Ignite community call. Wanted to say thank you for joining us today, and to introduce myself, I'm Wendy Forkas. I'm the CEO for Adjoin. I have been in the nonprofit space for over 28 years. And I like to say I specialize in people services. People are my passion, and being a positive impact in their lives is my purpose. And I was fortunate enough to rejoin Adjoin almost 3 years ago as the CEO. And I'm excited to talk about one of the biggest changes that I led the organization through, and not only led it through, but led it through during the pandemic, if you can believe that. I mean, if it, change is big enough, but then when you're doing it during a pandemic, it becomes even bigger and a little bit more challenging sometimes. But I'm going to be talking about our rebranding. And one of the questions that I often get from people is, why did you guys rebrand? Especially since our organization has been around for over, 38 years. So we've been here a long time. And we had our previous name for almost 20 of those years. So one of the reasons that we rebranded and what kind of triggered that are, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to have a slideshow, so give me a second while I pull that up. Hold on one second. Is, coming in to the organization, I had been gone from the organization for about 10 years. And so when I came in and wanted to go out and I'm going to start this, went out and kind of met and toured all the locations of our organization to get some feedback and find out, what was working well, what were the things that they thought would be good improvements, and as well as, what they saw for the future for the organization. And so one of the things that became very apparent was that we needed to do a strategic plan. And through the strategic plan, we realized that many of the goals that we wanted to focus on for the future for the organization required us to do a rebranding. So benefits of rebranding is that it helps you align your leadership, because when you go through that process, you have all of your leadership participating and giving you input and feedback. It also can allow you to reposition your organization or services. It also can help you, organizationally align, your different divisions or services or units within an organization. It's also can help you if you have an outdated image, meaning, to stay current and relevant. Oftentimes you want to make sure that your image and brand are modern and people will relate to it. Also, benefit of rebranding as market competitiveness is, that's a huge thing for us as a nonprofit in all the areas that we provide services in California, because there are a lot of nonprofits in, just here in San Diego. There's a significantly high number of nonprofits that as a nonprofit you compete with. So you want to have that market competitiveness. And then, of course, the one that also is true is change in leaders. When you have a change in leaders, it's often helpful to go through a rebranding process to, again, get the input of that new leader, and also, kind of have that mesh of their vision, their goals, as well as the current staff and stakeholders. So all of the benefits of rebranding here definitely were in line with why we here at Adjoin rebranded. So just to give you a little history, if you aren't aware, previously, when I first rejoined the organization, we were Community Catalyst of California. That was our name, that was the organization, our tax ID, it was tied to Community Catalyst of California. That division, that organization had been, providing services to the intellectual and developmental service field for like 38 years. I was thinking 28 because that's probably about the time the name change occurred. And then 10 years ago, the organization, out of a need to diversify funding, started providing services to veterans who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. So that service was called Veterans Community Service, and they had their own name, they had their own logo, as you can see, their own website. So although they were actually part of Community Catalyst California, they had their own brand, their own image, and our Veterans Community Services were branded to that name and that logo. So if I were to go to the veterans community and say Community Catalyst, they wouldn't know who Community Catalyst was. Just as if I went to the Community Catalyst and went to the organizations that we served through the intellectual and developmental disabilities field, they wouldn't have any idea who VCS or Veterans Community Services were. And actually, most of the time, they would be shocked that we actually provided services to veterans because they weren't aware of that. So when we were doing our strategic plan, you can kind of already get a sense of how difficult it would be to identify goals and work towards those goals if I have two different brands, two different populations that we're serving, and two different experiences for our employees. So we through that process knew that we were going to have to rebrand the organization. We needed to have one name and have both of our populations that we serve be part of and know that they were part of that organization. So we spent almost a year, it was about a year-long process to come up with our new name. And so we went from Community Catalyst of California and Veterans Community Service, or VCS, to Adjoin. Together we ignite possibility. So when we were looking at the name, it was really important. There was a lot of thought put into it on why we wanted to have a single word name, again, modern, simple, looking at how we could position ourselves in in our communities. And we also wanted the name to really speak to what our vision as an organization is and what our mission is. And so we really felt the word adjoin really simplified exactly what we're trying to do. We are trying to join the community and the people within the community to have those connections so that people aren't just living in the community, that they are connecting with the community, and by doing that are able to have a sense of belonging. So after we did the rebrand, I just want to show you guys how that looks. So you saw this slide before, and you saw how we had really two different logos and two different brands, if you want to call it that, or fields. And so after we rolled out our new name, Adjoin, this is like the visual of what it did. So you look at this, and we have people from all our different areas, different programs, all wearing the same colored same color, same logo, and it's very visible that they all belong to the same organization and see themselves as, coworkers, partners, teammates. So again, that was one of the primary reasons we did the rebrand, was to, align our staff, so that everybody was aligned and understanding that they were an Adjoin employee, and that they were part of Adjoin, and that we were all working together on our mission. The other was to help position our organization to grow. Because we had these, two logos, two different types of populations, and two websites, it really didn't allow for us to easily grow if we wanted to grow. If we wanted to add a new service, or we wanted to serve a new population, it would be a little challenging to figure out how we were going to structure that under the umbrella organization. So by setting it up as Adjoin, then we denoted that there are two divisions. There's the Catalyst division that serves our intellectual and developmental individuals through the regional center system and Department of Developmental Services. And we called that the Catalyst division. We felt it was suiting because most people knew those services as community catalysts. So by calling it the Catalyst division, people could recognize and understand what service division, and that would help with the transition to Adjoin. Then on the other side, we created our other division, which is our Veterans division. And so again, now instead of them being two different names, we had the Adjoin Catalyst division, and we had the Adjoin Veterans division. And again, very clearly, they're lined up under Adjoin. Now, if we wanted to grow or expand and either create a new business model, or to serve a new population through a new program, we could just easily add those divisions underneath Adjoin. So it helped align and restructure our organization to be able to take on new opportunities and growth. The other thing that we had identified in our strategic plan is that if you can imagine or believe, this organization, even though it has been here for many, many years, we had never done fundraising. But due to many factors, being, the fact that funding, it hasn't been and isn't increasing at the same rate as cost of living costs. And because our Veterans division is an expense reimbursement program, we realized that we needed to start doing fundraising to help generate additional funds to come into the organization to be able to fund the shortfalls and gaps in our current funding, because through our Catalyst division, we're at the mercy of our state legislators to give us increases. And then in our Veterans division, because it's an expense reimbursement program, very strict on what we can spend the money on. And so by doing some fundraising, it allows us to be able to provide things that that grant may not be able to cover. And that could be employee recognition, to helping support our veterans in needed essentials when they're moving into their homes, training opportunities, or even clothes so that they can go to job interviews. So we really felt we needed to do that fundraising. And so by doing this rebrand, repositioning our divisions, and then doing a brand new website, and then making sure that it's modern and simple and attractive, would help us in our fundraising efforts. So, when we talk about rebranding and why we did that, those are the reasons. And so now, with everybody aligned under Adjoin, we have now started to move forward in looking at, the future and what does the future look like. And there are a lot of things that are impacting, not just our organization, but our communities, the way people are providing services. We've had the pandemic, which has really pushed the technology advancement ahead pretty quickly. We also have generations coming in to the work world that have a different perspective and different needs. And so when we look at the future, to me, you have to be able to change. You have to have some innovation. So what are the impacts of innovation, and why would you, whether you're an individual, a business, you're working within a county or state system, a nonprofit, whether you're a nonprofit providing services, or maybe another type of nonprofit foundation that helps provide funding to nonprofits. Maybe you're serving kids in social recreational activities, whatever it might be. It really is important to think about innovation and why you really want to be considering that. And the first part and impact that, kind of goes hand in hand with the rebrand, but that is company culture. So when you are being innovative as an employer, you're allowing people to increase their ability to acquire and create new ideas, new concepts, new programs, but also that they can use a whole new set of competencies or skills and or knowledge. I mean, to be honest, one of the reasons I enjoy working at a nonprofit is because nonprofits that I've worked at, and most nonprofits that are smaller, they can't afford to hire a position for everything that needs to be done. So I like to have that ability to utilize different skills than just my, management or leadership skills that, you kind of have that creativity and flexibility. So it really can help have a positive impact on your company culture. The competitive advantage, if you're not changing and growing and doing new things, you will probably lose your customers because, people's needs and their wants or desires change. And, they don't always want the same thing, especially right now with the pandemic, the technology piece. Those are all things that in some ways are fairly new, but now after a couple of years of the pandemic don't seem so new anymore because we've had to start utilizing those tools more and people have become more comfortable with them. But by being innovative, you can create a competitive advantage when you're working with businesses or people, or even looking at partnerships with other organizations. The next one is increased productivity. So, when we talk about technology, pros and cons, we all know, but when you're taking on new and innovative ways of doing things, oftentimes it requires less time and it creates an improved productivity and efficiency. And then you can, maximize those and not spend as much time, say, on your administrative work and be able to focus more on your people services. And, for Adjoin, that is very true because doing paper case notes can be very time consuming. And when you are able to do something on a cloud-based platform, it takes less time and it also frees up more time for your employees because they're not having to run those logs or paper case notes to the office, but instead they're just doing it on their phone or an iPad or their desktop, and it's just done. So it does definitely has a positive impact and increases productivity. The other thing about innovation is that it maximizes your ROI. And again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the increased competitive advantage. when you are constantly growing and changing and offering more or being able to do things faster than other businesses or other service providers, that allows you to have a bigger impact on your outcomes and performance. And of course, those things tie directly into your profitability. So those are the, when we're thinking about future innovation, advancements, and kind of what you're needing to think about as we go into the future in this kind of service industry people field. But to be honest, just in our community, these are things that are really important to keep in mind. So the other thing I wanted to just kind of hit on too is that when you're looking at being innovative, what are some examples of those things? And I wanted to share a little bit about some of the, future progressive forward thinking ideas or concepts. And the one that really comes to mind is our newest in-flight, which is a skills academy, and it's an online educational platform that we are just now kicking off. And I will tell you, before the pandemic hit, if you said, oh, we're going to do an online skills training for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, most people would have said, I just don't know how that could be. I don't know how that would work. I don't think it would work with a lot of the people that we serve. But now after the pandemic, as you can imagine, many people overnight had to learn how to use technology and virtual services to provide support to the people during the pandemic. So, there's a lot of new service opportunities that are going to come in the future from the technology piece. But also, I think when we talk about, the changes in the generations that are coming into adulthood, they're very cause driven. They're wanting to be sure that what they're doing is having a positive impact in some way. And then I think too, looking at communities, communities are, they're looking at new ways to bring people together, provide the resources they need, but in a more productive or efficient manner. Because, one of the things that we continue to struggle with is funding. And so when you're tied to a funding structure that you have no control over, for example, with our Catalyst division, that's set by the legislature, we do have to be creative, and we do have to be innovative in ways of how we can continue to provide supports in a more efficient and effective way, but also in a way that that is going to be attractive and desired by the people we're serving. So definitely looking at some more innovative ways of providing what we're doing now that are more efficient and less costly. Also, one of the things that for the nonprofits, with the cost of living continuing to go up and our rates not matching that, we really have to find ways to either grow our organizations so that we can continue to withstand that increased cost of living. Or as, if you're a smaller organization, really looking at, can you continue to afford to have that management cost at the level that you have it? And I like to give this example. So if you're a $5 million nonprofit and you're going to be hiring a CEO and a CFO, those CEOs and CFOs are probably going to be making pretty close to what a CEO or a CFO are going to be making in an organization that say is 15 to 20 million. There's not going to be a significant difference in that amount. But when you think about it, when you're only bringing in 5 million in revenue and you're supporting the same pay or really close pay to a CEO in a larger organization, you have to kind of go, wow, we could probably do so much more if we partnered, collaborated, or merged with a larger organization that had a similar mission, similar goals, and similar outcomes, because you can eliminate that duplication and overhead and utilize it for staff salaries, trainings, as well as for the actual services you're providing people. So, when we're looking into the future and looking at, what is going on with our nonprofits, our cost of living and the rates, as well as even just the donor competitiveness, we are going to have to start thinking bigger. Bigger scale, bigger, in the sense of whether it's, strategic partnering, whether it's, having a relationship with an organization that can help you advocate, help you do certain, service requirements at a reduced cost than if you were to do them yourself as an organization. And then, the other part is because we know that the needs in the community, especially in people services, is going to continue to grow. Whether that be, the individuals who are, considered low economic or in the poverty level, homelessness, people with disabilities that are needing additional supports, the aging population that is needing more supports to be able to live in their home because they can't afford to live in larger, retirement communities or facilities. So when we start thinking about that, we really have to consider how important it is that we are connecting, that, resources, partnerships, community agencies, that we are joining together to ensure that we are going to be able to support the needs within our communities, and also to ensure that we are creating those pathways so that, all people can find a sense of belonging in their in their communities. So when you look at, Adjoin's new mission, because when we went through the strategic planning process, we also reviewed our mission and our vision, and we did come up with, a new mission, which is to create limitless pathways for people to belong where they live, work, learn, and play. And, there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just one organization. It's not just one person. It's not just one business. It's a whole community that is going to need to be working together, whether that's through collaboration, whether that's through resources, whether that's just, having the same vision or goal in mind of ensuring that, all of our community members can find a place in the community where they belong. So I'm going to stop sharing. And one of the things that we here at Adjoin have been kind of focused on is, finding ways that we can partner and connect and collaborate with other businesses, other nonprofits in the community. And, this is also an example of it, that one of the reasons we're doing our Ignite community calls is to, share with other stakeholders in our community what our goal is and what we're doing, in hopes that they too will want to join in and really think about, what are we doing to help ensure that all people can have a sense of belonging in their community where they live, learn, work, and play. And for me, some of the things that, we're pondering here at Adjoin is, what are some other areas that we could use our strong competencies in? How could we take our strengths as an organization and use them to help create those pathways in the community for people to belong? So one of the things that I wanted to just encourage you to think about is, how are you creating opportunities for people to belong in your communities? You know, what are you doing, whether it's on a daily basis, a weekly basis, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life? What are the things that you are doing that are helping to create pathways for people, all people, to have a sense of belonging in their communities? So for me, when I think about that, obviously I can think about my professional life, and I'm doing, you know, I'm working for Adjoin, and I am out in the communities. I'm advocating, I'm networking, I'm connecting to try to find resources or partnerships that are going to help move Adjoin forward and to help improve the lives of the people we serve, in helping them be able to access those resources or to have that engagement in their community where they then gain that sense of belonging. So true belonging comes from every person having the opportunity to actively engage in and be a part of their community. So it's not just having a place in it. It's not just about housing our veterans. It's not just about providing services to the people we serve in our Catalyst division in their home. It's more than, it's what are we doing to ensure that they have those connections and those opportunities to engage in the different activities, groups, services in their communities. So one of the things that we are doing with our Catalyst division is we are also having online social hours that we are inviting our clients to just participate in, so that they can come, meet other individuals, enjoy, have fun, interact. So, you know, that's an example as well in our Catalyst division of how we're reaching out and providing this opportunity to those individuals so that they can be engaged, they can interact with other people beyond just those that come to their home every day. So on that note, you know, what I kind of would like to challenge each of you to do, whether you do it right now or after we finish the call, is I would really like you guys to think about what are 3 things you could do, whether it be in your personal or professional life, to help increase belongingness for people. So what are some things that, just 3 things that you could do to help create those opportunities, those pathways for people to gain that sense of belonging? You know, maybe discover new pathways, meaning you have seen that there, for example, we know a lot of the people in our Catalyst division aren't able to get out and interact and socialize with people, particularly now due to the pandemic. So we created a new pathway. We created a online social hour for them. So maybe discovering new pathways. Maybe it's not just discovering them, but designing them, creating them. Maybe it's redesigning or reinforcing a pathway that's already there. So, you know, we're talking about all these future technology advancements, and, you know, maybe there's some paper pathways going on, right? And maybe there are different ways that we could redesign that, or, you know, add on to them so that they become stronger pathways and really help that individual be able to get out and engage and feel that they have a part, an active part in their communities. Maybe you could be a pathway guide. You know, maybe you decide to go volunteer and you're going to help those individuals. Maybe, you know, there are a lot of organizations that serve the elderly, and I know that a lot of times it truly is volunteering to go help this individual go to the grocery store or go to a doctor's appointment. So, can you be a guide? Can you help actually take people into the community? I know a lot of people do some volunteer work where they go out and interact and talk with people who are homeless and are living in tents on the road. So maybe it's going out and helping them find that pathway, making sure they know what resources are available to them. And then also it could be ensuring the pathway leads to success, right? Nothing worse than starting out on a pathway and you get to the end and it's not where you want it to be, right? It doesn't take you to that goal or to that mountaintop. And instead you find a do not enter or under construction, right? So maybe it's, when you find those pathways that are so close but aren't quite there, maybe you have a way of ensuring that they are successful, that they can actually access or engage in those activities in the community. So that's my challenge to you. Kind of think about, 3 things. What 3 things could you be doing to help, support and, build those pathways for people to belong in their communities? So with that, I would love to see if anybody has any questions or comments that they would like to share. If you are so bold and have already thought of maybe one of those 3 things and want to share it, we'd love to hear it.
I'll share something, Wendy.
Sure.
So in the area that we are here, that our office is in, it's not a great area, but we do have a lot of homeless. And I know, like, when I go to throw the trash out, I always have to peek out the doors to see who's actually back there. But it's not a big, huge thing, but just saying hello to them, because they're really not used to people speaking to them. Because most of the time they're unkept. Most of the time they look like they're not in their right mind. But I try to say hello to them just because they're people. They're people just like me, like they're like all of us. And one time one of them offered to help me with the trash. And I said, yes. I was like, I didn't want to like push away from him, but just making them feel like you can speak to them, so that they don't feel so isolated. Because you have to be careful as well. But I think just a hello is huge.
Well, that's a really great example, Lisa. Just saying hello, right? Acknowledging that they're there. Many people who are homeless. I don't know, Lisa, if you recall the video that we have on our Adjoin website for Veterans Division with Dan. And that's what he was talking about. How when you're homeless, you feel invisible. You feel like you don't have a place and that people don't see you. And how our Veterans Division being able to get him a place, that what a huge difference that made. He had a place to meet people at. He had an address for people to send mail. So that's a great example. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask, or?
Wendy, I have a question. So in your presentation, you spoke about innovation. And so what was your first win that made you confident that you were taking the right step when Adjoin transitioned from Community Catalyst to Adjoin?
Oh, yeah, I would say, like, for me, like those pictures I showed you, that, like, there's nothing more visual than that. When you see that everybody is excited, they're, all dressed and have the same logo. They're prideful, and that they're, they're aligned. So for me, it really was when I did the internal reveal, which, if anybody knows me knows, if there's a reason to celebrate and have a party, I'm there. But I do think that when during the internal reveal, where people were actually putting the shirts on and taking pictures, and they were sending them to me, I could tell at that moment that it really did join everybody within our organization. And that, I think, was just immediately the energy and the excitement, and you could just see the unity was probably what made me go, this, yeah, definitely was needed, and definitely is setting Adjoin up to be able to do what it's wanting to do, and meet its goals, and creating that sense of belonging in the community for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I know that we have several people that are part of Adjoin, and I know that they went on that journey with me, and we're part of that. Many of the individuals are actually part of that whole process of the strategic planning, because to me, it was really important that when we did the strategic planning, that it wasn't just a few people in our home or corporate office. We had people from all the different areas. Every area location was had someone. Every program, every level of staff was represented in our strategic planning, and that made a huge difference, because it brought such a significant perspective to us, and it also, in many ways, helped ensure that the goals that we set were going to be achievable, because everybody had an engaged part of it, or an active part of it, and they were represented. And I think that's really shown through the last, 6 months. We've done so much. I was just telling someone that it is amazing knowing how difficult it has been during the pandemic, how much extra work that has been, how many impacts that has had on many of the people within Adjoin. And yet, in that time, this organization has completed a strategic plan, has not just gone through a rebranding, but a renaming. And on top of that, we have gone from, there's like 3 paper systems that have gone to fully online cloud-based systems during that time. I know I sound a little proud. I am. That is amazing to do that during COVID. So to me, that I think having that engagement and that involvement and feedback from all people throughout the organization really did set us up to be successful, even during difficult times like the pandemic. So yeah, and boy, are we glad that we were already on that train, right? That technology on cloud-based train, because who thought when it first started, we thought, oh, just a few months. Now we're going on almost, what, 2.5 years. So yeah, I think that that it really set us up for success in regards to that. And we're like, even today, we have our Where's Wendy Now weekly Zoom meetings. That's really started due to the need when the pandemic first started, but we've continued them for almost 2 years now, because people wanted to continue to have these weekly meetings, because they like the engagement, they like to know what's going on, and to be able to talk with one another and hear from one another in all our different locations throughout the state. So that's another great, I think, example of how technology and future thinking, progressively in the future has really benefited specifically our organization. and then being able to take that and do something online for our Catalyst divisions or social hours, another great example. So, yeah. Any other questions or comments? I know we're getting close to the 2 o'clock hour. Truly appreciate all of you joining and hearing. And, you know, I know sometimes in these forums, people might not want to share or speak up, but please, if you do have any questions or comments or want to further discuss any of the things that I touched on today, please feel free to reach out to me. You know, I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach me at wendy.forkas, Forkas, at adjoin.org. And, you know, you can always go to adjoin.org website, and it also has information on how to contact myself or others here, including information about our services, whether it be our Veterans Division services or our Catalyst Division services, which includes the new in-flight online skills academy, as well as many of our other living work and transportation options that we have. So again, thank you so much. And I do hope that you guys, if you haven't already taken a moment, that you do take a moment to think of those 3 things that, you know, you could be doing to help, you know, people have a sense of belonging in your communities. So thank you so much for joining in our inaugural Ignite community call, and we'll be doing these quarterly. So please keep an eye out, and you know, because we'll be sending that information out ahead of time so people can register just like this time. Well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you in a few months.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Hi, Wendy.